People have been coming in all night. It's been pretty good, pretty full chat room for this episode, which is podcast number 77. As I said, there's a time for the silliness to come to an end, and we talk about the serious issues of the day, and we do that in a segment we call Pothead Punditry. Our nation stands on the brink. Every day brings new federal encroachments that take our freedoms and strangle our will. There comes a time when the silliness must take a back seat to the serious issues of the day. The time is now. It's time to fight back and reclaim the freedom that is rightfully ours. It is time to discuss the serious issues of the day with Stoner Jesus' Pothead Punditry. Indeed, it is time for Pothead Punditry, where we put away the silliness of the Stoner Jesus show to talk about serious issues. The little theme intro, of course, is by Taylor_MTPG on Twitter. So if you're listening to the podcast on stonerjesus.net, or if you are watching the video and listening to the video on YouTube, thank you. This is Pothead Punditry episode number 10. Tonight we are talking about marijuana and marijuana news, and we get our marijuana news exclusively from the 420times.com. First story I want to talk about is a very interesting story. For those of you who know, who don't know, a little quick rundown of what's been going on. When Barack Obama, President Obama, was a candidate, he would say things like, we really can't waste federal resources overriding state laws in regards to medical marijuana. Even back in 2004, if you go back that far, he talked about it might be a good idea to look into decriminalizing marijuana. But as late as 2008, he was saying that he was not going to use federal resources to go after state legal dispensaries, collectives, and whatnot. Of course, fast forward to 3 years later, and for some odd reason, he has decided to alienate a huge amount of his voters in 2008. A lot of stoners voted for Obama in 2008. If you think, estimates say there's anywhere between 17 and 30 million regular marijuana users in this country. We'll say, that has to come out to at least 3 to 4 million votes. Even if you want to go the conservative route of, of 17 million, at least 2 or 3 million votes. You take out the people who are not registered, and then the people, you cut that in half for the people who might actually vote. And then you put the little stoner factor in to where they're going to be like, oh, I'm high, I don't want to go out and vote because it's bullshit anyway, and nobody cares about my vote, and it don't fucking mean anything anyway, which is where a lot of people land. Then, but still, it's a couple million. A couple million votes that Obama cannot afford to lose at this point in time. He's running for re-election next year, and the economy is in the fucking toilet. And if you look at history, it is impossible to get re-elected with an awful economy. The last person to do it, I guess, was FDR, and we were in the Depression, and the war drums were beating in Europe, and people were scared to change leaders. But since then, a bad economy has equaled get the fuck out of office. Nixon found that out. Ford did. Jimmy Carter. Bush 41. And now Obama's going to learn it. But to alienate millions of voters for no fucking reason is crazy. Anyway, it all comes to this story. So the White House says that their medical marijuana policy has been, quote, been clear and consistent. The story says as federal threats close dispensaries across the state of California, as they have halted medical marijuana programs in several states. They've derailed the dispensary program in Arizona with federal threats and a lawsuit by the Arizona governor. There's supposed to be 125 dispensaries in Arizona. That's not going to happen. Rhode Island has halted their dispensary program because of federal threats. New Jersey decided to go ahead with theirs, which is pretty cool. But for the most part, states have, and Montana's medical marijuana, between raids and state legislature bills overriding the will of the voters in Montana, Montana's medical marijuana industry is completely destroyed. And California is going to be as well. The 45-day limit has passed. The 45 days that the dispensaries and collectives in California had to vacate the premises, basically hundreds of them across the state, and a lot of them are closing down, restricting access to medical marijuana patients. But I digress. As I was saying, the White House position on medical marijuana has gone from progressive and open-minded, the article continues, to draconian and heartless. Those at the White House don't seem to see what the big deal is. A White House spokesman said that his position on medical marijuana has been, quote, has been clear and consistent, end quote. While the prosecution of drug traffickers is a core priority, targeting individuals with cancer and serious illnesses is not the best allocation of federal law enforcement resources, said the spokesman Adam Abrams, if that is your real name. First of all, this is the bullshit they pull out. They're not going after patients. They're going after drug traffickers, which is code for medical marijuana dispensary and collective owners. So they can all say they're drug traffickers because if they make a penny of profit under California law, they're supposedly a drug trafficker. But anyway, that's besides the point. Where do you think a lot of these cancer and people with serious illness patients get their medical marijuana? Many of them are too sick to grow on their own. Growing marijuana is just throw some fucking seeds in the dirt and pour some water on it, and bam, you got some fucking marijuana. That's not the way it works. If you want quality shit, you got to put a lot of time into it and a lot of effort. And if you're going to do it indoors, you need a lot of equipment. And a lot of these people are too sick to do that. So what do? They go to the dispensary. They go to the collective. They go wherever to buy their medicine, or they have someone who can buy it for them. And that's how they get it. The article continues. Politicians and officials in government are known for making dumb statements. The current governor of Texas acts like he just fell off the back of a turnip truck and smacked his head on every rock for 200 yards. But this may be the dumbest thing ever uttered by a White House official. Their position has been clear and consistent, even from a place that has been lying to the American people for centuries, the White House. This is hard to swallow. Even if we all lost our memories tomorrow, the internet exists, and with it every scrap of evidence and step in the Obama administration's bipolar journey to its current position on medical marijuana. It's fucking crazy. There's more news. California. A lot of news comes out of California, especially these days. But this has less to do with medical marijuana and more to do with arrests and wasteful expenditures. Seems a new report from the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice about marijuana in California shows an incredible increase in misdemeanor cannabis arrests over the past 20 years, along with a huge increase in the rate at which minorities are arrested for cannabis compared to whites. While the arrest rates for just about every other crime in California has gone down over the past 20 years, arrests for marijuana are up a whopping 108%. According to the report, in numerical terms, almost 21,000 Californians were arrested for misdemeanor possession of marijuana in 1990. By 2010, that number had leaped to almost 55,000. Meanwhile, arrests for possession of all other illicit drugs, as well as for felony drug manufacture and sale, declined sharply. In 1990, simple marijuana possession comprised 8% of all drug arrests. In 2010, that number had grown to 22%. But not only are the arrests up, but they are targeting minorities more than ever. In 1990, half of California's marijuana possession arrestees were African American, Latino, Asian, or other non-white persuasions, and 35% were under the age of 20. In 2010, 64% were non-white and 52% were under the age of 20. Marijuana possession arrests of teenagers of color rose from 3,100 in 1990 to 16,400 in 2010, and arrests surged 300% greater than population growth in that group. So basically, I guess the theory goes in California that if you arrest a ton of minority kids, then you have fixed society. And you can arrest them by having little dime bags of weed and throw them in jail and destroy their hopes at education, career, put them in in jail with hardened criminals who will teach them how to rob and steal and kill people, and wasting all that money, locking these people in jail. It's stupid, and it's ignorant, and and all kinds of other words that you can think of to describe it. It's incredibly wasteful of life and money. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, a former Seattle FBI chief endorses marijuana legalization. That's a good story to see on the 420times.com. There's also a Board of Health patient rulemaking hearing November 16th, which is tomorrow, at the Colorado Board of Health in Denver. They're going to be talking about a lot of rules about lowering the fee to be a medical marijuana patient and to get your license or whatever. But there's some other things they're also going to talk about. So if you're in Colorado, you want to check that out. And there's also a story about a wounded Iraq veteran telling the federal government to allow research on treating post-traumatic stress disorder with medical marijuana. And there's also a story about 2 people being arrested for sending marijuana through the mail. The dumbasses FedExed it, and it was found by the drug dogs, who could easily smell I don't think it was drug dogs, I think it was just people. They could smell the marijuana. And people whine and complain, and then opponents of medical marijuana will say, well, that's what happens because it was shipped from California, and California's supplying the rest of the country with marijuana because of medical marijuana. But even if medical marijuana in California didn't exist, marijuana is still going to get shipped through the mail because it's very valuable. It's going to be transported by car, train, plane, whatever, to drug dealers who want to make money.
Anus.
So,
tape to balls.
yes. They'll find any way. They'll find any way to transport that shit and get it in the hands of whoever they need to get it in the hands of to make their money. Because the prices are so inflated because of prohibition. And this is the way it is. That was Weed News from the 420times.com, and that, in totality, was Pothead Punditry, where the Stoner Jesus Show live takes on the serious issues of the day. It's incredibly awesome, and I thank you everybody for listening on stonerjesus.net and on the YouTube and on Spreaker.com. All the people in the chat room, they're very awesome.